the personal virtual assistant of Death and Chorus. He's going so fast on the contact accelerator that even his charisma can't keep up. Make sure you leave a message or you'll miss the opportunity to catapult your sales story to the next level. Come on, don't be such a charisma muffle. Leave your message after the beep, and Detlef will get back to you with all his radiant power. Matilda, the personal virtual assistant of Detlef and Chorus. He's going so fast on the contact accelerator.
And here we go. So technology sometimes not working. And here she's gorgeous, incredible Dina Winter calling in from Tel Aviv. So a very warm welcome to you, Dina. Nice to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Good to see you, Detlef, and hello, everyone.
So, Dina, you describe yourself as a rebel to shake up strategy. What's the biggest belief CEOs or entrepreneurs need to challenge today to thrive in shifting markets?
Wow, such a big question. I would say to accept the fact that we don't always know it all, and really ask ourselves, do we leave space to be surprised? And I always refer back to the origin of the word strategy, which comes from ancient Greek. Strategia means the art of the troop leader. So strategy is an art, it's not a plan. And I know that, and it depends obviously on the size of the companies, but in some cases, or in majority of the cases, I always hear we have a 3-year plan. And while you're sitting and planning, life is happening out there.
Yeah. So first of all, Dina, thanks for this first answer. First of all, I want to give you in the audience here a short information. Dina is in Tel Aviv, so sometimes it could happen that there's an alert from sirens because of any attack, because this country is in war. And Dina, you are in Tel Aviv. How is it living in Tel Aviv in those days?
Well, I think we all are a bit adrenaline addict. Because when you're pushed to the edge, what I find one of the side effects is to be in love with life even more. I appreciate the small moments even more, and unfortunately, and it is unfortunate, we get used to that, and it's obviously not normal to get used to a reality of a war.
Yeah, so this is sort of crazy. It sounds for people not living in a war. So my deepest respect for you. So you have a son there. So how is it for a mother to live with a son and telling him what's happening here in this crazy world?
Well, unfortunately, history repeats itself because originally I'm from Vilnius and Lithuania, and we immigrated to Israel when I was 7. 2 months later, the war with Iraq started, and I just went to first grade. And pretty much simultaneously, I don't remember much, but I do remember sitting in the isolated, bomb-shielded room, and we were watching the news, and the Soviet tanks were riding through Vilnius and killing civilians, and that was happening next to my previous home.
Wow.
So now, after 7th of October, my son was in the first grade, and it brought a lot of probably trauma from my childhood, which I didn't even think were existent. But through, I cannot control it, but I can control how I respond to it. And I know that it's easier said than done when you're constantly bombarded with images of the hostages, which are, still there, and I don't watch the news for 20 years, and there is, reason for that. But now I have to do that in order to be sort of stay.
Having a closer look on safety for your family, of course. Yeah. This is absolutely understandable. So the thing is, we don't want to lead a political discussion here about the war and its implications and so on. So, but what did you learn from all that? How did it come that you became a strategist like you are today?
Well, not the typical way, let me tell you, because I I work since the age of 12, and you
Since
know,
the age of 12, let me repeat that, please. So, how did that come?
well, there was a new stationery shop that was just opened in the neighborhood where I lived, and I walked in. I was so fascinated by just the new smell and all the different pens and gifts and so on. And I just walked in there and I loved the shop. And I spoke to the owner and I told her I would like to work here for free. And
Wow.
she hired me on the spot. And it is an incredible story. It's about a mother that opened this shop for her son that had a disability. And she sent him to normal school. She never gave him the special needs treatment. And she ultimately opened this shop for him. And he was he was the owner not only of this shop, but also Toto, which is the equivalent of Lotto, a lottery for football games here in Israel. And he's kind of a genius. So I end up working there for 6 years.
Wow, 6 years. What? How did that influence your career?
Tremendously. Well, I am hard, like, all I know is how to work. I mean, since a very young age. So I'm very responsible. And interestingly enough, so I mean, that was my first interaction with an owner, with a CEO, a leader of their own business. I just kept going that way. And then I joined at the age of 18 and a half. I remember that the half back then was very important. I joined a subsidiary of one of the top banks here in Israel, a mutual fund management company. And I would sit in directors and investment committees for a year and a half, as I always say, at the status of a cactus. I was, taking minutes and writing protocols, etc. But what it
Well, it's funny.
did,
It sounds a little bit when you say 18 and a half years
yeah,
old. It sounds a little bit like the story of Harry Potter, who is trying to reach this 9 3/4 railroad. In this movie, yeah. So in the double age is 18 and a half. But this is maybe just a joke. But it sounds a little bit like a miracle. So what did you learn in this investment company?
I was on the observer seat for a long time. And because I was observing, I also was observing. So I was listening and I would pay attention to what was said mostly in between the lines. I speak four languages. I always say that I speak four and a half. The other half is the additional half is my ability to read in between the lines. And going back to your original questions, what strategy is about, and it's about, in my opinion, not to see reality as we wish it to be, but to really tune in and listen. So those long hours, me sitting and just observing all the board members sort of arguing with each other or debating with each other, elaborating with each other, that was my probably introduction, the official introduction to strategy.
So this is very interesting. So when you talk about reality, what sort of reality do you mean? Because everybody has a different perception of what is reality.
Well, there is obviously research done and says that we don't see the reality, we perceive a reality through our own lens. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, 98% is not real. Leave the numbers aside. When we come to make extremely important decisions, and in strategy or it can be in any other area, it is important that we see the map in front of us correctly. And it is also very important to make sure that in our assumptions, we also assume that we don't map the map correctly in front of us.
Yeah, everybody knows those confirmation biases, and Kahneman, the book of what our brain does all the time with those false failures by design in our brain sometimes. This is an interesting discussion, but I want to ask you another question. How do deeply ingrained business traditions like playing it safe hinder companies from innovating?
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
How do deeply ingrained business traditions like playing it safe hinder companies from innovating?
Well, all the time. I came to strategy from the back door, and then maybe I didn't complete my sentence. I will add bits and pieces here and there. It was thanks to my clients and the companies that I worked with, because I come from the expertise of investor relations, and I've been sitting with investors on the same bench for the past 15 years in different constellations, whether when I was working with startups, publicly listed companies, investment houses, and even in NGOs when we were raising funds with donors. And I would always, almost on an intuitive basis, I developed this methodology where I would talk for the first time with the leader, and I would say, no. Please don't tell me your story, because the chances are you're going to bullshit me. Excuse my language. I don't know if I can say that.
Beep. We send a beep over this terrible word here on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the funny thing is the algorithm can't kill those things when they are going out live,
Okay.
but nothing is happening in a live show. So at this point of our show, this is my call to action for you in the audience. Just give me your comments in the even if you see this live show after this live event. So when you see it as a video recording, give me your insights and ask your questions to Dina. Dina is going to answer all your questions. This is going to be sure. And connect with Dina on LinkedIn in case you didn't do that already. So here's the QR code. Just use this QR code, scan it with your smartphone, and then you're connected directly to Dina. Dina is looking forward to have great conversations with you. And I'm going to spread out the link in a few minutes where you can book your first discovery call with Dina, your first appointment date, and fix it very soon and very quickly. This is the main function of LinkedIn. So LinkedIn means link with other connections, and this is what we are going to do. And this is what's called Contact Accelerator is going to be as a program. Let's link a little bit faster to your heart and to people that are have maybe the same mindset or a different mindset, just to learn from each other. I think this is quite good summarizing it, what the ideas of Contact Accelerator. But Dina, what was the when you say cut the bullshit? What is the biggest bullshit you have to face all over again?
Well, it does depend on the case-by-case basis. I do find it that we have to go through and remove a lot of layers of preconceived notions. And just quite recently, we had a strategy session with a dear client of mine, a friend, this week, and all of a sudden it dawned to me that we've been through this work already for a few months, more than a few months, and still there is like a constant sabotage or resistance, which is absolutely normal, because when it comes to strategy and you want to create something meaningful, it does require not safe options, not straightforward, not boring, or meh, as I call them. And a pivotal question that I raised was, what is it that they don't like? And obviously, due to confidentiality, I'm not going to share what was the answer, but we were able to connect directly what they didn't like with what was stopping us from moving to the next phase in the process. And a lot of the times when a leader feels in their gut that the company can do better, we can deliver better results, but why is it that we're just, doing okay? And obviously, there are many reasons why, and I don't want to generalize because it does depend on the case by case. But removing the noise, it is absolutely essential.
Okay.
To the core
And how can you remove the noise?
questions
Questions.
and feeling, and maybe it will sound woohoo. I mean, I am very intuitive, and at the same time, I love to back up myself with data and numbers. And through the feedback of the clients and the companies I worked with, they all told me, Dina, you have to do strategy. So this is how I came to strategy. And it's sort of like I knew what strategy is, but I wanted to back myself. And the more I went and looked for the models, I saw like staggering statistics that 70% of global strategy fail today.
70%. Let's remark that 70% of strategies fail. This is amazing, isn't it?
Yes, and
Stunning.
it is stunning. And I always refer to this analogy. Imagine if our children go to school and 70% of the time they fail. Would we just, say, okay?
Oh, this is okay. This is okay. So 30% are girls, or
Yeah.
bit of the rest. Yeah.
So we really we would not think it's okay. We wouldn't say, well, it was too hard, or well, we missed that. So in this,
But, Dina, how is that? There's so many companies failing when setting up a strategy. Is it a question of not believing their own strategy? Is it a question of not coming into action, or is it the well-known sentence "culture eats strategy for breakfast"?
I just hosted a masterclass and I called it "Don't Let Strategy Eat You for Breakfast." Well, I think as leaders, what comes to mind when you raise this question is the fact that we fall into the planning trap. Now, I get it. I know that planning is very confronting because we are in control. And we'll go back to that boardroom. We really want to be in control. But the reality is that we don't know what the customers is going to decide and how the markets are going to behave. And I also use that one simple example. Oftentimes, investors would ask a question, even though they know the answer, but they just want they want to listen to hear your conviction. How do you see the map in front of you? So one of those questions can be, what do you think the next 12 months going to be like market-wise? There are no future tellers in the audience. I would guess nobody knows. Obviously, there are so many bettings and so on. So it's just really, in my opinion, what is missing is not in all cases, but yes, we can rely on past analysis. Data is important to understand the profile of our customer if we want to penetrate the new market. But let's just take a step back what I use is to try to connect to what ticks for me, and where my intuition ability comes in.
Dina, what's a belief you personally had to unlearn to succeed in your field?
Unlimit. Like, I wasn't a business savvy by birth. I chose to become an independent consultant because I became a mom. And just like I mentioned already, I don't know how it is like not to work. But I also, first of all, I realized that I don't want to spend 24/7 at a high, profile type of job because I want to be present with my son, as cliche as it sounds. And second of all, after I made millions for others, I decided that I want to change the game that I'm playing. And this is how I came to be a business owner. And let me tell you, I've made a lot of mistakes and still do a lot of mistakes today, but that's okay. And
Yeah,
this is
yeah, absolutely. Congratulations that you make some faults, because we are learning not from our successes, but from our faults of our failures. Dina, you often critic the one size fits all approach in consulting. What mindset shift do leaders need to embrace tailored strategies effectively?
don't be the one who's asking questions. Let others ask you questions. And I know that it's very uncomfortable. So this is why you want to bring somebody external, and I know that it might sound as if I'm selling my services, and I am in a way, but the fresh eyes can bring you so much value to uncover the many blind spots. And have you probably heard about the metronome effect? So the metronome effect says, you have a few metronomes on the table. It's the musical.
Yes. It's a wonderful video on YouTube. You just have a close look at it. They synchronize in action at the beginning, not at the beginning, but when during this effect where they are going intact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great to see that. Yeah, great. But when you say you address those blind spots in companies or in strategies, how do you help leaders to see those blind spots? What is your special method?
Ask questions. Let others ask you questions. And maybe it's very unpopular maybe to say I don't know, but you can say that I don't know. Let others speak. Or create a safe space, because I changed the banner. I used to have a banner on my LinkedIn, ready to ditch the yes man. And when I used men, I meant people. But essentially, I changed it for, I didn't want to get biased into gender and so on. And this is not what I stand for.
Yes.
But in reality, we are surrounded with people that make us, well, not always and not everybody. But, and I guess that comes from my own environment. My best friend and my friends, they never sugarcoat me. They always tell me as it is. And I love them. And I'm so much more grateful to them when they do that.
Yeah. So we have Jörn here. Thanks to Jörn for your comment. Hello, just want to say thank you for providing us with very valuable insights into your daily life and operations. So fascinating. So congrats to you. So this is the first. My call to action again, just give us your comments, give us your questions to Dina. You have a wonderful chance to speak to a strategist who is connected to leaders worldwide. And this is an interesting life story, because grown up in Lithuania, correct?
Born in Vilnius and growing up in Israel, and I also lived in London, and then came back.
So international. So this is you're a citizen from the world, and this is great to see that. And this is an idea of this show, just to see and learn from CVs, from curricula vitae, that give us an idea what is possible, because so many people in life and during the war, in conflicts and so on, in companies, don't believe that they have the power to do anything that is going beyond frontiers. And this is what I see. When we had the first contact, Dina, I was deeply impressed that you are living in Tel Aviv and living in a, I would say, really critical situation. And from my point of view, from the Safe Germany point of view, you hear about those things, but they are so far away, but they are so near when I have a contact with you now in the moment. So thanks for that. And I'd like to thank Jörn that he's going to give us a comment like that. But next question for you. Many CEOs feel the pressure to know it all. How can they embrace vulnerability and ask for help without losing authority? This is a great anxiety.
I think many people don't know. So when you say that you don't know, you just give the permission for the elephant in the room to exist. I mean, it's there. So you better call it out and invite it and welcome it to sit. And when you do that, you have so much more power. And people who look up at you, they feel so much more connected to you. And aren't we all want as leaders that our employees will come and be super dedicated to what we do? We have a great mission and we want employees who are highly motivated.
Yeah.
And then another point, which I always talk about, when I hear our employees are unmotivated, that's to me the most banal red flag signaling that they have problems with their strategy. They have bigger problems with it.
Oh, wow, interesting. So you emphasize fun and creativity in strategy. Why is creativity essential in a field that's often seen as rigid or analytical?
Well, I'm flooded with so many ideas at the moment. I have to quote Nick Askew. Nick Askew, he is a filmmaker. You can actually look him up. He founder of an organization called Soul Biographies. And I made a short film once, and I published it. And somebody reached out to me, and she said, "You have to speak to him." And I don't know what got into me, but probably I'll just let the creativity part. I reached out to him and I said, "I would like to make a documentary with you." Before I knew it, we got on the call, and which later I realized that was a big deal. And I was completely silent. I mean, in my throughout the hour. And he told me that that was very uncharacteristic of him to be more talkative. And he gave me such a gift during this hour. And he told me that he based his entire career in filmmaking on this principle of doing nothing, and let it come to you. So when I do the strategy work and I remove the noise, and all we have to do is just not to stand in our own way. When we let the
Yeah, this is a great idea. So when you know Dr. Dispenza, Joe Dispenza,
yes, of course,
no thing you have to bring yourself into a mode of elevated emotion. This is what Dr. Joe Dispenza is going to call it, and no thing, nobody, and no time. So if you're feeling that, then your mind is open for new things. I think this is a quite good idea, isn't it?
yes. And funny enough, I mean, you didn't know this of me, but for 6 months now, on a daily basis, without fail, I start my day with a meditation to Dr. Joe Dispenza. And then, yes.
Yeah. Great. So when you emphasize fun and creativity in strategy, give us an example. How do you do that in action, in practice?
Well, I will just give you examples from real strategy sessions that I had recently. I would welcome to everyone to stand up. For me to come into exactly, usually I stand up, but today I decided to have a seat and to be on on the other side normally. And so to walk into a room, sit down, and eat croissants, in my opinion, is the opposite of what creativity looks like.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. So, but maybe the croissants are the best ever. But I think in business context, something a little bit disturbing. That's what I see when people come into a room. even in a Zoom room or a live show room like that, you can feel their energy and you can see if there's some light in their eyes. Are they interested? Are they active? And so on. And some bodies are, some guys are eating croissants, and this sometimes it's necessary, and it's funny to see that.
Exactly. So, and don't get me wrong, I mean, the croissants are lovely.
Yes.
Um, but movement is so essential, especially when you're like in that. How can you come up with, build and create something truly great if you are, limited? So another thing that I do is I map the map physically, and just like back at the day when kings were preparing for war to go out to the war, the king or the queen would meet with their advisors, and they would physically walk on a map which was on the floor, on the ground floor. It is very middle age, if I'm not mistaken, and I would walk with their, I don't know what's the word, but anyway, they would physically walk on the map. And this is what I did as well.
Funny,
When
it's interesting technique. I think this is a good advice for everybody who's going to think about strategy. So let me ask you another question, Dina. What's your process for helping leaders reconnect with their company's fundamentals while staying innovative?
Well, first of all, be ready to cut the BS.
Just-
And it's not a magic solution. Be ready for a ride. And I developed a process through my work, which I call strategy audit and redesign. And through begin with questions, and I send out a questionnaire which is designed intentionally for you, just like you and the questionnaire, without any distractions, without me guiding you through that. And I ask you to fill up this questionnaire with the first thought that comes to your mind, without judgment, without evaluation. Just write it down.
Oh, yes, without judgment. This is a great sentence because most of all the people are in a judgment mode at once. They are triggered by a word or something like that, and judgment is here in a second, in a millisecond, very fast. And you need another mindset that you control what you are thinking about it. So to come from this recognition to judgment to the pre-phase of trust and then belief. So this is what we want all want to have. We want believers and we want people that trust us and not people who are in judgment mode all the time, because there's no conversation possible. I think when everybody's going in his judgment, you are wrong, I'm right. So this is what I did for years, and this is so stupid. But it took me a long time to learn that, and this is funny to see that because many people, when I talk to many people, are leaders today, have the same situation very fast. They have they have learnings in their head and thinking of mindset is really fast in judging situations. Sometimes it's helpful. Very often it's helpful, but very often it's not helpful. How do you address that?
Well, I do that as well. And for example, just over a week ago, 3 startups reached out to me and I looked at their pitch deck. And
Oh my
well, no, there were great encounters, and investor wouldn't invest more than 10, like how it's like 10 seconds to answer themselves whether they should continue listening to you for the next 30 seconds, for the next 10 minutes, and so on. So the advantage is that I'm like an investor, but I give you more time. I don't cut. I honestly ask, and I want to listen. And oftentimes what is revealed that you give me one answer, but you actually mean something else. And I noticed that leaders do that.
Text and subject. This is what you learned very often, very early, to read between the lines. This is what we told me, isn't it?
And it's fascinating. The leaders, when they ask a question from their employees, I notice that they look on the side. They don't look in their eyes because they know that they come in and they want to please them. So they want to, or they have a bunch of excuses. So what the leaders do,
Always fucking excuses all the time. People are excusing for everything. It's crazy. You know the Queen's quote, Queen Elizabeth. She always said, "Never explain." Yeah. So is this a good advice for leaders?
in general, for everyone, not to explain. I mean, if we're it depends what we're talking about. If you're about to set a boundary, don't explain. I agree.
Yes.
Some cases, if you're asked to elaborate, why not? So, oh my God, I forgot already the question. That was a great question. And
You get a question. Let me see it. What's the question here in here? Thanks
thank
to you both for your well presented insights. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for your commentary. So, but Dina, we have a few minutes left. So I have one more question. Your recent post about teaching your son to communicate his needs was powerful. How does this lesson translate to leadership and team dynamics?
oh my God, that was such a powerful moment. And, a few days ago, I spoke to my son about the fact that we have different upbringing styles and different generations have different upbringing styles. And I told him that we were taught as children not to cry. I mean, especially boys.
Yeah. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry.
And his response was absolutely mind blowing. He was like, "What? How on earth? Who came up with that silly idea? How can you not cry?"
Yeah.
And like there is such a burden on leaders today, and it is a very lonely journey. And if you were growing up with not giving the permission to cry, so how can you be authentic to what you need? And a great leader, and this is not just a kuchimuchi talk, I always quote Sam Altman, the ChatGPT co-founder, who said recently that one of the main criteria for him to know whether he's going to invest in a startup or not is he asks himself whether this CEO, founder, leader is driven by purpose. Because there is a research that shows that leaders that are driven by purpose have a greater chance for success.
Yeah, great. So, Dina, we have 12:33. So, my last question today for you is: if you had to leave CEOs with one rebellious piece of advice for staying ahead of the curve, what would it be?
Be rebellious. Like, aren't you tired and bored of all this, kuchi-muchi talk and the fancy, glamorous titles? Do something different. Step outside of your comfort zone.
Wow, has been a great show, Dina. I say a very warm thank you to you. So I love to have you in my conversation. Wish you good luck, all the best for you and your son and your family in Israel, in Tel Aviv, and everybody who's going to be bombed in those days. So we don't want any war. There's a questionnaire a few days ago. I had a talk with somebody who said 90% or 99% of the people in Israel and in Gaza and in Palestine don't want any war. They are separate, special people who are interested in war, and we should try to invest a little bit more in peace than in war. Good advice at the end. So thanks for that, Dina. I loved the conversation with you. It was great. Stay tuned in the moment, because I'm stopping the show now. And for you in the audience, give us your comments.
And that left Dan Kishan, and thank you so much for asking such a great questions. And it was such a pleasure to be on the reverse side of it.
I fully agree. A LinkedIn user, how to express feelings when you never have been allowed to feel. This is a great idea. Thanks for being with us in this first Contact Accelerator International show with Dina Vince from Tel Aviv. And if you need a rebel in strategy, just give her a call. And if you want to be in my show, just come in, give me a direct message. And this is it. So this was Contact Accelerator. You are the show. Dina Winter, thanks for that. Everybody, thanks for you in the audience. Have a great time and see you next time in Contact Accelerator.
The personal virtual assistant of Death Play and Chorus. He's going so fast on the Contact Accelerator that even his charisma can't keep up. Make sure you leave a message or you'll miss the opportunity to catapult your sales story to the next level. Come on, don't be such a charisma muffle. Leave your message after the beep, and Detlef will get back to you with all his radiant power. Matilda, the personal virtual assistant of Detlef and Chorus. He's going so fast on the Contact Accelerator that even his charisma can't keep up. Make sure you leave a message or you'll miss the opportunity to catapult